Hey, what's up, everybody? BDO44 coming at you with another video. All right, so I'm actually going to kind of just piggyback um, a little snippet that I saw from Laker Nation. I always want to give people credit. You know what I mean? That's how I move. I take tea leaves. So if anything, I'm looking at my phone at different content and come to you and bring you what I get from there. So just a consumer with a second, um, with another voice. So here it is. He was mentioning Fred Van Fleet and Kyle Lowry as potential trade suitors, trade. What's the word? How do you say that? Trade, whatever. The targets that the Lakers would want, and I figured I'd chime in and kind of give my opinion on what I think. So I'm actually higher on Kyle Lowry right now than I was in the summertime. Okay, I am. I think he's been better this season than I ever dreamed he would be coming back from what looked like an obsolete season, but as we've been talking about on this channel a lot lately, he's one of those guys that's low to the ground, who doesn't need to be jumping out the gym or need to be moving too fast or any of that to be his best self. He's a gifted three-point shooter. He's a gifted playmaker. He rebounds the ball very well. He's always been a triple-double threat since the beginning. And he started his career kind of out of shape, like a chubby dude. So him kind of going, into father time is kind of resorting back to the shape he was in when he initially started his career, which I haven't forgotten about with the Memphis Grizzlies. I was a big fan of his way back then, before people really knew who he was. And as he started to string together triple doubles and things like that, I used to say that he needed more time. Now, of course, I didn't have a channel way back then, but it was one of those things that used to cross my mind, and I think about it's like he didn't get enough time with the Memphis Grizzlies for whatever reason. And as he started to gain um, his cachet as a player they can rely upon with Memphis, he really started to ascend into like a Chris Paul light type of guy, but he just could not stay healthy. So as the years progressed, he ended up finding himself in Toronto, and the rest is history. We all know who he is from there. But I do remember him with the Rockets and with the Memphis Grizzlies because he was one of my favorite young point guards way back in the day. So for me, I always liked Kyle Lowry. I just lost my affinity for Kyle Lowry once he went to Minnesota. To Toronto, and then had his years there, and then went. You know what I mean? He's just lived out his career. So it's like, all right, he's an older guy now, and his contract's outstanding. So it's like you don't want to pick him up, not necessarily because of what you think he can or cannot do on the floor for you, but just because he's gonna eat up so much of the cap, it's not gonna make a whole lot of sense, just like a lot of the players. So that's still the situation to this very second. He's on a very, very hefty contract with the Miami Heat, and they're desperately trying to get rid of it. Now the thing about it is the Los Angeles Lakers, over the last 24 hours, I've been talking about the Lakers having issues closing out basketball games, and then them needing to bring in someone who can help time management, help control pace, help solidify the end of basketball games. Since it's essentially a Derek Fisher type who can just come in and close the game out. I guarantee you, if we had somebody like that on this team in all these games that we had that were close, we would have won them all because there's a know-how to do so, and we don't have anybody on our team that knows how to do that. Kyle Lowry, I don't know, but I know of him to be a real point guard, an actual one, at a high level who has an NBA championship under his belt. So when I look at players who may potentially have that, I wouldn't look too far as to say he shouldn't be somebody you should study. He should be somebody you should study to see if he's good at closing out those games. And if he is somebody like that, then you probably do want him on the team. But at what price? So that's my entire full synopsis of Kyle Lowry. I know he can stretch the floor. I know he's older. He's like 36 or something like that. Even though he looks younger, he's older. But he still has a lot left in the tank, it seems, because of how he's been able to have a resurgence this season. Now the problem is Miami Heat plays him in spurts. And not only on top of that, he is older, so he has had injury issues and things of that nature, and you don't want to invest in his body based on that truth. But if you can get him at like a $3 million, $4 million contract, then he's an asset you need. Not only somebody you should want, he's like the piece. So I understand the Lakers wanting to get him, but the price tag that he's going to be at, it don't make no sense to even think about that. That's not a thing. But if for some reason he gets bought out, he should be priority, regardless of what else we got going on. You just want somebody like him on tab just to help you. And so that's what I think. I don't think the Lakers should be after him right now. If for some reason he gets bought out, that should be the angle from which to acquire Kyle Lowry. Anything less than that is foolish. It's just like Patrick Beverley's contract. It's one of those things where it's like you can want that player, but if you get him a certain way, it's not to the betterment of your team. And you can see how we acquired Patrick Beverley. It's a terrible decision. Kyle Lowry would be the exact same thing. Now, the other player they're mentioning is Fred VanVleet, and he's kind of the same type of player, but younger. Um, and I look at him as somebody who can help you and do more for you because of it. Now, he's in a really, really bad slump for his career right now, playing the worst basketball of his career. And that's exactly why you get him, because you can probably get him for lower than ever. You can get him at the price tag that everybody says, oh, he's not worth $30 million, because that's essentially what's going on right now. He's going to be up for negotiations after the end of his contract. I think he's on a $22 million contract with a player option, I believe it is. So he would have the choice of whether or not he want to stay with us this offseason or go off and try to renegotiate that contract, as to which I'd imagine how he's been playing, it would probably be wise for him to just opt in, give it another season. 9 out of 10 times he's not going to be playing as bad as he did this year. He's never played this bad before, so he probably won't play this bad again. Chalk this season off as a season he needs to just work his way out of this slump, and then next season play for the contract, because you're playing for the contract now. All that's really doing is lowballing yourself, because people have seen you last poor. So what you need to do is try to get away from Toronto, I guess, if he's not going to move forward with Toronto, and then get in a new situation where he can reestablish himself as a good player. And obviously the Los Angeles Lakers has a lot of responsibility here for him to come in and immediately help the team win a championship. If we acquire a player like him, there's no more excuses. That's essentially what it is. There's no more get LeBron help, nothing. You got Fred VanVleet, that's a young star, all-star player in his prime, coming to your basketball club, who's already got a championship under his belt. With AD and Bron, there should be no more excuses. So that's the type of move you make. You're likely going to have to give up both picks to acquire a player like that. But what you hope Rob would do is, if he makes a deal with the Toronto Raptors and he gives up both picks, that he doesn't only bring back Fred. But if for some reason he did bring back Fred for 2 picks, that is fair value for who he ultimately is overall. But for how he's playing right now, one could lowball the Toronto Raptors for his contract. His field goal percentage is at 33%. I think he's shooting on the year. He's just an awful version of himself. And because he's an awful version of himself, you have to wonder if bringing him to a win-now situation makes any sense at all. Because if he continues to struggle for the rest of the season, and you didn't give away Russell Westbrook, a player you needed, which is likely what's going to have to happen if you swap for the right salary, or you can do Patrick Beverley and Kendrick Nunn, but then you're definitely throwing in them 2 picks and probably Thomas Bryant, Wenyen Gabriel, and some other things too to get back that type of talent. So be prepared for that. If we don't give up Westbrook and we bring in Fred VanVleet, it's going to cost us a bunch of stuff we have no business giving up, as to which you're overloading on guards even more, as to which we would look at our team and say, what the hell are you doing? But my mindset is this: if they were to make that move, I would not be too concerned, only because Fred VanVleet is a piece that I want on my team regardless of what the heck is going on, whether Bron and AD are here or not, if we're rebuilding or not. I don't care. I just want Fred VanVleet on tab, because I know he's a player of the future. It's not even he can be a player right now. He certainly can, and he would better be, basically. But if for some reason we strip it all down and we're left with Fred VanVleet, I feel good. We're rebuilding and we got Fred VanVleet. So it's one of those type of things where either way we at least have a piece, no matter what. If you're left with Fred VanVleet and Anthony Davis as your last 2 building blocks, you still got a playoff team, because you should be able to get enough around them for those 2 to lead you to the playoffs if Anthony Davis is healthy, which he never is. But the point is, your asset class is tradable, to which you can get yourself a future for Fred VanVleet's return and Anthony Davis' return, and whatever LeBron James left behind, you'll be cool. So that's how I look at that player. We get him at a certain price, he's going to elevate that price. There's no question. He's not going to continue to shoot 33%, especially when he's playing for a contract. It's not going to happen. So if Toronto gives him up at this price, they're foolish. I'm just going to be honest with you. That's just foolish. But at the same time, it's like if they expect him to opt out and they expect him to leave for nothing, then what choice do they have? Back to square one, which is something I always advise against, letting players walk for nothing, especially all-star point guards with the NBA championship on their belt. You don't let him walk. So Toronto's in a terrible spot, if you ask me, because if he's not going to continue to play better, all they can get for him is probably the lowest amount. It's either take the lowest amount for your guy, or let him walk, or pay whatever his price tag is, as to which they probably don't want to pay that. So I would hate to be in Toronto's spot. This is devastating if they have to trade him for 2 picks, honestly. He should not be traded. He should be somebody they resign And hopefully, for their sake, he would be willing to take pretty much the same price. $30 million is too much for them. Given that they got to pay Scotty Barnes, they already got Pascal on tab, you got Precious Achiuwa on tab, you got a lot of players in Toronto that need to be paid. Obviously, OG Anunoby, and so on and so forth. So for them, it's not about them wanting to let Fred go. It's more so about just not necessarily having his money. So that's what we can make up for that if, one man's trash, another man's treasure, I guess. So I think the Lakers should be interested in Fred VanVleet. Although I hadn't said it on this camera, I kind of look at him like on the level of Kyrie Irving in a way, to where that level of talent, you're happy if you have to give up 2 picks and you bring him back. Because at the end of the day, if you have to retrade him, he's going to give you something back for him. And so that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. But at the same time, if you look at Toronto, they're trying to get rid of him now, and they can only get so much. So that's their specific situation based on them not being able to re-sign him. So that's really what it is, man. In the perfect world, Toronto just has a lot longer than the trade deadline to let that player sit and then just let him recover his value. And then from there, they can trade him in the offseason. But he's going to be unrestricted if he opts out, as to which they won't have that option. So that is the specifics of what they're dealing with. And I don't envy it. No, I don't. But I think we can benefit from it. And that would be someone I would be willing to give my picks up for. If it came down to us having to give up the picks and that's the type of value we're bringing back, that's the level of talent I want. Now, me personally, I prefer a wing because I think that's more of a need for the team. Obviously, Fred VanVleet is a shorter player. So we've talked about players like Donovan Mitchell, talked about players like Jalen Brunson, who are stars and all-star level players and even higher than that. But you think if they're in a situation where they have to guard bigger guys like Jaylen Brown and some of these other, Anthony Edwards, they're going to have issues because they're not going to be big enough. So no matter how talented they are, at the end of the day, they're just going to be shot over. So that's a thing. If you got size issues, you probably don't need to be bringing in Fred VanVleet as one of your key players. He needs to be in a situation where everybody's tall, just like he's in Toronto. So this is about the situation you're bringing him to. But with Anthony Davis, LeBron James, I like that situation personally. I do. I think we could do a lot with those three, and I don't look at Fred VanVleet as a deficient defensive player, which is the difference between how I look at some of the other guys. I mean, Donovan Mitchell's been stepping up on the defensive end, but he also has never known a world where he doesn't have supreme shot blocking in his lineup. He don't know a world where players are undersized or small ball. That's not his world. If he were to end up on a team like the Knicks where he was intended to go, he would be dealing with a lot of that when Robinson wasn't on the floor. So, well, I don't know. They've added some players since, Toppin and some of these other guys. So I guess that's not the case. But nevertheless, they would have had a small backcourt and so on and so forth. So the Lakers have that in place anyway. That's my thing. It's like everybody's saying we got too many guards. But it's like, yeah, but we got a bunch of guards we don't mind letting go of. I mean, does anybody really mind if we let go of Schroeder and Kendrick Nunn and Patrick Beverly? Like, those are the guards we have. Like, no disrespect to them dudes, but we can easily revamp our entire guard situation right now, and I wouldn't blink. I wouldn't blink at all. I like what Russell Westbrook brings to the table, so I'm not really interested in letting go of him necessarily based on what it is that we need. But, like, let's not act like our guard logjam can't just simply be wiped away with no problem. Like, it totally can. It's not like we have a bunch of mainstay guards like Sacramento had last year or Orlando has this year. Nah, them dudes can all go. And we can revamp the entire guard situation right now and probably be better for it. So I don't have no problem with that, especially since the Lakers can't seem to keep a shooting guard in rotation at all in this era. And if you notice, we keep bringing in good shooting guards. They all flourish in that role, but they all end up leaving for a bag. We do need to solidify our guard spot. Just because you have a bunch of guards and none of them are real starting solidified guards does not mean that your guard spot is in place. You just got a bunch of dudes that need to go at that same position. And that is what the Lakers actually have. Sorry, Westbrook fans, that's a fact. We don't have our guard. We don't. We don't because we have to live and die with his mistakes. And he can play the 2. He can play the 3. We don't need him to play the 1 necessarily. You know what I mean? And certainly not in floor generalship situations. Absolutely not. So that's what it is, man. We need to get us a floor general. I don't disagree with the idea. We need another point guard, and we need to wipe away some of the point guards that we got so that we don't have the logjam. No, you don't sit up here and say, we got so many guards, so we're cool. Hell no. The guards that you got aren't good enough. You're leaning on Patrick Beverly for 30 minutes a game. He needs to be removed from this situation entirely. And Fred VanVleet is someone that you can have come in and play defense at a crazy great level because he does that and hit shots when he's playing better than he is right now, which is every time but now. basically. So that's why you get him now. So yeah, man, I'm full steam ahead in regards to acquiring Fred VanVleet. If the Lakers want to do that, you got my green light. I definitely want Kyrie Irving just the same. You guys know that, but I just don't think he's as realistic. He's playing too well. Like, I know we got in a little trouble with IG. We'll see how it pans out. But Joe Tsai, I just don't see him doing anything to help Kyrie or the Lakers, honestly. So it's like a long shot. It's like a pie in the sky type of dream that Kyrie comes to us in time to save the season. But Fred VanVleet seems a bit more realistic given the Toronto situation, given his age, right? Because he's younger than Kai, his NBA championship status, which is equal. And therefore, you know, I can see the Lakers saying it's a safer bet for the Laker organization to go after a Fred VanVleet in some ways. So that's what I see there. But whatever the case, we could use a revamping of our guards. We could definitely use some solidified point guard and shooting guard players that don't have to swap every year again. Just get us some guys. So I'm with that. I've been thinking a lot about that too. It's why they want Bradley Beal. It's why they want Zach LaVine. It's because we have so much turnover with that shooting guard position. Fred is a point guard, but when I think about what Austin Reeves can be for us, he's going to slot in wherever the other guard isn't going forward in the future. So if we have a point guard that's superstars, he could be the shooting guard. If we have a shooting guard that's superstars, he can be the point guard. That's kind of how I look at Austin Reeves. If we're doing things correctly and his conditioning meets the needs, because his talent and his basketball IQ definitely will. And then I look at Lonnie Walker, somebody I want to keep as well. Please keep Lonnie. His athleticism, his explosiveness in the open court, that's an asset you want to keep. Easy buckets in the open court. You want that type of speed, especially if you're going to be letting go of Westbrook. So these are things I'm thinking about, man. We can get rid of some of these dudes. Dennis Schroeder can go, y'all. I'm telling you, I like how he's played. He's been really, really good, but we know who he is. He's up and down, up and down, up and down. We can ship him out, ship out Patrick, ship out Kendrick, ship out Damian Jones. You know what I'm saying? We got a bunch of players that need to be extracted. And we can go ahead and bring ourselves a guy like Fred VanVleet if we're going to have to give away those picks, and feel like we can get ourselves a first-round pick if we have to retrade him. So that's key. Is the piece retradeable? Fred's case, if he opts in at $22 million and he snaps out of the slump next season, yes, at the trade deadline next year, you should definitely be able to trade Fred VanVleet for something more than what you got him for. And that's the bottom line. My name is BDL44. I thank you all for watching. I'm out.